There's a strange thing that happens at the end of Genesis 3. Yesterday, we saw how this chapter in the Bible describes the hope and promise that God would restore our broken relationship. God made the promise to send someone to crush sin and death. Right after that, he does something else. He makes clothes for Adam and Eve from animal skins. Adam and Eve had tried clothing themselves with leaves, which I can't imagine being that useful or all that comfortable. And so God sacrifices some of his creation, killing animals so that these humans may have sufficient covering. This is an important detail to keep in mind when we come to today's verse. Hebrews 11 verse 4 teaches us about the relationship between faith and sacrifice. This is what it says. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. The story of Cain and Abel is one that I remember hearing all the time in Sunday school when I was small. But it always seemed a bit moralistic. Be a good boy and don't kill your brother. That's a bit simplistic, even for a boy of 9 or 10. The reality is that the story of Cain and Abel found in Genesis 4 has a lot more to do with faithfully following God than the morality of not killing people. A simplified version of what happens in Genesis 4 is this. Cain and Abel, who were brothers, some of Adam and Eve's first children, went to offer sacrifices. They went one day to worship God. So, side note, offering a sacrifice is fundamental to worship. We come before the one we worship, offering something in order to find favor with the one we worship. If you think about worship as devotion or love for something, think about then the time and energy and attention you give and the hope that you'll have a sense of satisfaction or fulfillment. Anyways, back to this story. Cain offers the fruit of the field, while Abel offers a sheep. In Genesis 4 verses 4 and 5, we read that the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. The Genesis account doesn't give us any details as to why this is. Why would God accept an animal sacrifice but not the fruit of the field? Both these men worked hard and brought offerings from what they spent most of their time doing. Hebrews 11 tells us that it was something to do with faith. I was reading a book called Neapolitan Liturgy the other day, and it had a helpful insight on this. Peter Leithart, the author, highlighted the similarities between Abel's offering of an animal, an offering that required death, and God's clothing of Adam and Eve. Leithart proposes that Abel offers a faithful sacrifice by following God's pattern. Abel brings his offering, hoping that God will again accept a substitute death to allow him to meet with God. Abel demonstrates a faith that God will cover our sin by accepting a substitute to pay the ransom price due for sin. This is at the heart of what Christians believe. This is my hope. Advent is the season of longing and hoping that God will provide an ultimate substitute, one that will permanently and perfectly stand in our place when judgment comes. And this is what Jesus did. Abel's sacrifice in faith points us forward to the sacrifice Jesus made. God loves us so much that he came himself to be the one perfect substitute. Now, there are a variety of reasons why we may find this hard to believe. Maybe it's our 21st century Western discomfort with sacrificial language. Maybe it's a deep concern that our life is too broken for God to love us in this way. Or maybe it's the fact that, like Abel did, faith requires us to act without fully understanding or knowing the why. Whatever it is, take it to God in prayer. God will talk with you, even if you aren't sure about faith. He talked with Cain, after all. And so, reflect on Abel's faith and what you bring in worship this Advent season.